was a cold, misty morning when my sister Lily and I arrived in Rosewood, a village that seemed to have stopped in time. We had heard stories about this place, but nothing could prepare us for the eerie silence that greeted us. As we walked through the town square, I noticed an old, worn sign hanging above the entrance. It said, "Stay until sunset." The strange thing was that there was no explanation, just the words in bold, almost as if they were warning us. I turned to Lily and asked, "Do you think that means anything?" Little did we know that that signal was the first clue to a mystery that would change everything. We decided to explore the village, hoping to learn more about this strange place. The buildings were old. Some seemed abandoned, others were still in good condition, but everything seemed that strange. I looked out the window, wondering who could be inside, but I saw no one. It was then that I noticed something strange. The clock in the town square had stopped. The hands were frozen at 3:15. As we walked back down the street, I turned to look at the square again, and that's when I noticed. The path we had taken was gone. The street had changed. It was as if the village itself was changing, like a puzzle that didn't quite fit together. We couldn't believe our eyes. The once familiar village was now unrecognizable. I turned to Lily, panic seeping into my voice. "This can't be real. The streets are changing." Lily grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with fear. "What do you mean? The street looks good to me." But as she spoke, the ground beneath our feet seemed to shift. Buildings were appearing and disappearing, like a mirage, and the air felt heavier. We were stuck in a place that didn't make sense. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of us. It was an old man, standing as if he was waiting for us. His face was shadowed, and his clothes looked like they had been worn for years. Without saying a word, he pointed to the center of the square. We got closer, and there it was. The building we had passed before was gone. In its place was nothing but fog, swirling in a circle. My heart skipped a beat when I turned to Lily. "How is the village disappearing like this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Where did it all go?" Lily didn't respond. Instead, she took a step back, her eyes darting around. "We need to get out of here," she whispered. "This place isn't what it seems." And that's when I realized this wasn't just a village disappearing. It was a puzzle, and we were part of it. Fear dominated us strongly. The village was no longer a peaceful place. It had become a labyrinth, a nightmare that changed every second. The streets we walked along were now gone, replaced by empty spaces. Buildings were disappearing, only to reappear at different points, making it impossible to navigate. "We have to move now," I shouted, grabbing Lily's hand. She nodded, her face pale, and we started running. The sound of our footsteps echoed through the empty streets, but everything felt wrong, as if the ground beneath us was unstable. "Hurry up," I shouted again. My heart was pounding as we ran down a street that didn't even look familiar anymore. The fog was closing in around us, and the air grew colder with each step. "Where are we going?" Lily asked, breathless. "I don't know. Keep running," I replied. Every time we looked back, the streets we had passed through were already gone, replaced by more fog and mist. The village was swallowing itself whole. Suddenly, we stopped. In front of us was a dark alley, and at the end of it, a dim light flickered. We didn't know where it led, but it was the only chance we had. "We need to escape now," I said, pulling Lily towards the light. We ran towards it, not knowing what would happen next, but hoping it was the way out. We reached the light, our breathing heavy, our bodies shaking with fear and cold. As we approached, the alley opened into a small courtyard, and there, standing in the middle of the square, was a man. He was old, his clothes faded and worn, but his eyes were sharp, watching us carefully. "You're not the first to come here," he said, his voice calm but strange. "This village, Rosewood, only appears to those who have unsolved mysteries within them." I blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" I asked, still trying to catch my breath. "Why is the village disappearing?" The man nodded slowly, as if expecting the question. "The village is not real. It is a reflection of your mind, your fears, your uncertainties. It disappears when you are ready to face those fears and leave the past behind." I looked at Lily, her face filled with disbelief. "So it's not just a village, it's us." "Yes," the man replied, "and you solved the mystery. You two faced your fear, and now the village is disappearing forever." The fog began to dissipate, and the village began to disappear, leaving only the empty square behind. As the last remnants of rosewood disappeared, we sat in silence, processing everything that had just happened. The village, once so vivid and full of mystery, was now nothing more than a memory. We thought we really were part of the village's mystery, I said, still trying to make sense of it all. Lily nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. Yes, it wasn't about the village. It was about us, about facing our fears. We walked away from the square, the weight of the experience settling in. We knew we had learned something important, not just about the village, but about ourselves. Sometimes the hardest challenges are not out there in the world, but within us. Yes, and sometimes the answers are already within us, she replied with a smile. And with that, we left the empty village behind, carrying the lessons we had learned. Gestuda historia. Commente. Compartilhe inscreva-se se quiser continuar essa jornada rumo a fluência como gente.